Why was she out here, bending in the dirt like a forgotten janitor, when once she had been the Army's quiet ace? The morning sun stretched across the Colorado plains, spilling long shadows over Fort Braxton's shooting range. Staff Sergeant Elena Ramirez moved along the firing line, boots crunching gravel, metal bucket in hand. The sound was hollow, repetitive, each shell casing she picked up clinking like a reminder of what she had lost. Her right shoulder throbbed when she reached too far, a raw ache that hadn't left since Afghanistan. A piece of hot steel from an RPG had torn through her during extraction, leaving her decorated but broken. Two Purple Hearts, dozens of confirmed kills, and the kind of shot most soldiers called impossible, and here she was, reduced to gathering brass. Some called it busy work, others called it punishment, Elena called it limbo. She crouched for another casing half buried in the dust. For a moment her mind slipped back to the mountains overseas, the sharp scent of sand and cordite, the feel of a trigger under her finger, the breath hold before an impossible shot. She remembered that day, the high-value target, the wind howling across ridges like knives. One round, one chance. She had taken it, hit, but nothing after had gone the way it should have. Elena, a voice cut across the range. Sergeant First Class Drew Foster stood near the towers, arms crossed, his tone flat. Make sure you get everyone. We've got VIPs coming today. Don't leave this place looking like a trash pile. Yes, Sergeant, she answered, neutral as stone. To Foster, she wasn't a sniper, wasn't a soldier who had once been whispered about in special operations circles. She was just a broken body with orders to sweep the ground. Her eyes drifted downrange. The targets were scattered across familiar distances, neat silhouettes waiting for lead. But one caught her eye, so faint it was barely more than a shimmer in the distance. Her trained eye measured it instinctively. Over 3,000 meters. Closer to 3,300 maybe. Too far for training exercises. Too far for anyone sane to waste ammunition on. A whisper slipped from her lips. That's got to be over 3,000. Her personal record had been 2,847 meters, a shot so far it was spoken of like myth. No one but her spotter and commander had known it was hers. She'd carried that silence, that burden of knowing, while others told tales around campfires and bars. The sound of engines rolled over the range. A convoy of Humvees appeared, raising clouds of dust that caught the early sun. Doors slammed. Officers stepped out, some American, some foreign. Elena's eyes tracked one man instantly, a tall figure, sharp jawline, eyes the color of steel under ice. His mustache was too perfect, his uniform pressed like it had never known dirt. Major Alexander Blackwood. The name carried weight. British Special Air Service, one of the most celebrated snipers in their ranks. Gentlemen, Colonel Parker, the base commander, boomed proudly, welcome to Fort Braxton. Today, we'll demonstrate why our soldiers are among the finest marksmen in the world. Blackwood's voice cut through, crisp and cutting. Impressive setup, Colonel, though his gaze slid toward the far hillside. I notice you've set a target quite out there. That one must be, what, 3,000 meters? 3,285, Parker said, chin lifting. Special training purposes. Extraordinary, Blackwood's mouth curled, not quite a smile, though I don't suppose any of your men have actually struck it. The silence was thick. The colonel shifted uncomfortably. It's more of a theoretical exercise. I see. Blackwood's tone dripped with mockery, the faintest smirk tugging his lips. In Her Majesty's service, we prefer practical demonstrations over theory. The Americans bristled. Elena felt the cut of his words even from where she stood, bucket heavy in her grip. The demonstration began. Soldiers fired, performed well enough at mid-range. But Blackwood barely seemed to notice, his gaze always wandering back to that impossible target. When his turn came, he handled the rifle like a pianist with ivory keys. At 1,200 meters dead on. At 1,800 clean. And then, standing tall, he gestured toward the far hillside. That target, he said lightly, has anyone even attempted it? Parker hesitated. Conditions make it extremely difficult. Ah, best left as theory then, Blackwood interrupted, handing the rifle back. Of course. In Afghanistan, I made a confirmed kill at 2,970 meters, but I suppose conditions here are more challenging. The words lingered like poison in the air. Soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. Elena's chest tightened. Enough. Her bucket hit the gravel with a dull thud. She walked forward, every eye turning, boots echoing in the morning quiet. "Excuse me, sir," she said to Parker, voice calm but steady. "Ramirez, what are you doing?" Foster hissed. Parker raised a hand, curiosity flashing in his eyes. "What is it, Staff Sergeant?" Elena squared her shoulders, pain shooting through the scar tissue, but her voice never wavered. "I'd like to attempt the shot, at 3,285 meters." The silence cracked into disbelief. Blackwood turned, his expression one of theatrical amusement. "I'm sorry, did the cleaning lady just volunteer for precision shooting?" British soldiers laughed, low and cruel. Heat rose in Elena's cheeks, but her gaze was firm. "Staff Sergeant Elena Ramirez, 2 tour in Afghanistan, sniper qualified, longest confirmed kill, 2,847 meters." The chuckles stopped. Blackwood's smirk thinned, though arrogance clung stubbornly. "You think you can strike that target with unfamiliar equipment, in conditions you haven't studied, after spending your morning picking brass from the dirt?" "Yes, sir, I'd like to try." Parker hesitated, then nodded. Blackwood's grin sharpened. "Then let's make it interesting. If she misses, she returns to custodial work without complaint. If she hits," he paused for effect, "then I owe her an apology, and if she hits center mass," his voice rose theatrically, "I'll personally recommend her for the Queen's Medal for marksmanship, though I assure you, gentlemen, that won't be necessary." "I accept," Elena said. From the sidelines, an older man stepped forward. His gait was slow but proud, his white hair thin but sharp eyes still alive. Master Sergeant James Old Ghost Mitchell, the base's senior sniper instructor. "Elena," he said quietly, breaking protocol with her name, "you sure about this?" She blinked. "You know me. You remind me of your father, same look in the eyes." Her breath hitched. "You knew him." "Knew him?" Mitchell's voice softened, a memory flickering across his lined face. "Carlos Ramirez and I served in SEAL Team 6, Gulf War. He was the best shooter I ever saw, until now, perhaps." His gaze shifted to the distant speck of a target. "I've been watching your career. Your old man would be proud. This is your moment." Her heart thundered, questions clawing at her, but there was no time. Mitchell stepped back. The weight of legacy pressed against her spine as she moved to the firing line. She picked up the M24 Blackwood had used, standard issue, not designed for this, scope serviceable, not extraordinary, conditions uncertain, odds stacked like mountains, perfect. "Problem, Staff Sergeant?" Blackwood asked, smirking. "No, sir, just familiarizing." She knelt. The world narrowed, just her, the rifle, that distant ghost of a target. She studied the wind. Grass bent differently at each interval, whispers from the earth itself. Southwest near the firing line, harsher westerly gusts downrange. Her calculations began instinctively. Bullet dropped nearly 400 feet at that distance. Drift impossible to guess exactly. Humidity, heat shimmer, all dancing with her. Voices murmured behind her. "Girl doesn't know what she's gotten into." Blackwood stood, arms crossed. "Whenever you're ready, we haven't all day." She ignored him. She'd seen this before, the taunts, the dismissals. They thought words could rattle her more than bullets ever had. Afghanistan, her spotter's urgent call, 2 clicks out, enemy sniper, if you miss, we're done. Her own calm reply, sending it. The round had flown true. Texas, age 12, her father's hand steadying her first rifle. "The weapon is nothing, mi hija. The mind, the heart, that's the weapon. Breathing slowed, in-out, half-breath held stillness. Her finger drew the trigger back, a whisper of steel. The M24 cracked. The sound carried across the mountains like thunder. The bullet began its 4-second journey, longest 4 seconds of her life. Through the scope she watched, eyes unblinking. Behind her, spotters scrambled, telescopes searching. "I don't see an impact," one muttered. "Check the target," Parker ordered. The silence stretched thin, fragile as glass. I think I see something," the spotter whispered, "but it's hard to tell at this distance." Elena exhaled, the weight of uncertainty heavy in her chest. She had felt the shot was true, but at 3,285 meters, even perfection bent under chaos. The convoy rumbled to life. They would have to drive out, 20 minutes to the target, 20 minutes for whispers, for doubt, for smirks and side glances, 20 minutes to know if she was a legend or a fool. Elena folded her hands in her lap, eyes steady on the horizon as the vehicles rolled toward the hillside. Her future, her father's shadow, her very dignity, hung on a single hole in a sheet of steel. What if it was just a shadow? What if she had gambled everything, her pride, her father's name, her very identity as a soldier, on a miss? The Humvees jostled across the rough Colorado ground, 20 minutes stretched like a lifetime. Elena sat in the back, hands folded, eyes locked on the distant silhouette. She refused to let her pulse race, refused to let them see nerves. On the outside she was still. Inside the storm raged. Blackwood rode in the lead, tall frame upright, his head turning every so often as though even his profile could sneer. He expected her to fail. She knew it. Everyone knew it. That was the script, the wounded woman overreaching, the British veteran shaking his head, the Americans quietly embarrassed. But what if the script had changed? The convoy slowed. Soldiers spilled out. The silhouette grew, no longer a speck but a dark slab of steel propped against the hillside. Her boots crunched gravel as she followed them closer. There it was. At first her eyes refused to believe. Then, yes, a clean hole left of center mass, the edges sharp, unmistakable. "Well, I'll be damned," one of the American officers whispered. Blackwood leaned in, his jaw tight. "Impressive," he allowed, though the word came strained as if dragged from his throat. Not center mass, of course, but noteworthy. Before Elena could respond, the spotter's voice rose. "Actually, sir, given wind, drift, and range, that's exactly where a center-aimed shot would land. Textbook." Elena let the faintest smile flicker across her lips. She hadn't aimed left. She had trusted physics, trusted training, trusted herself. Blackwood's face darkened. His arrogance cracked, only slightly, but enough for her to see. "Lucky shot," he muttered. "Sir," Elena answered quietly, "with respect, luck doesn't calculate wind or bullet drop or humidity. That was no accident." The silence was heavier than gunfire. Back at the range, soldiers gathered, whispers spreading like fire through dry grass. Ramirez, the sideline custodian, the wounded sniper who had just done the impossible. By evening chow, half the base already knew. Exaggerated stories circled. The impossible distance had grown to 4,000 meters in some retellings. But the core truth was solid. Ramirez had humiliated a legend. She ate quietly, hoping the storm would pass. It didn't. Soldiers drifted by her table, clapping her shoulder, offering handshakes, admiration. She nodded politely, but inside she felt the weight of their eyes. They weren't just congratulating her. They were rewriting her story in real time. Foster approached, tray in hand. For once his eyes carried something other than irritation. Respect. "Mind if I sit?" She gestured to the empty chair. He lowered himself slowly. "Hell of a shot, Ramirez. I've been in the Army 15 years. Never seen anything like it." "Thank you, Sergeant." For a moment, silence. Then he sighed. "I owe you an apology. I thought you were just another broken soldier they didn't know what to do with. I was wrong." She looked at him, surprised. He didn't look away. "The question is," he added, lowering his voice, "what happens now? You can't go back to picking up brass, not after today." Before she could answer, the hall shifted. Quiet fell. A figure had entered. Major Blackwood. The British officers flanked him like shadows. He moved with calculated precision, his eyes cutting across the room until they landed on her. "Speak of the devil," Foster muttered under his breath. Blackwood approached, his every step pulling the silence tighter. "Staff Sergeant Ramirez," he said smoothly, "might I have a word?" The cafeteria air felt thick. Dozens of soldiers stared, waiting. Elena rose, following him to a corner where voices dropped low. "That was quite a performance today," Blackwood began. "It wasn't a performance," she replied evenly. "It was shooting." He tilted his head, studying her. "Do you know what the longest confirmed kill in history is?" "Canadian JTF-2 sniper," she answered. 35-40 meters. Iraq." "Correct. Your shot today. 3,285 meters. Extraordinary." She said nothing. "I've been thinking about you all afternoon," he continued, his tone calm, measured. "About how the American military wastes talent. You, for example, decorated, proven, yet you spend your days cleaning brass." "I serve where I'm assigned, sir." A very admirable answer, but let me be blunt. Next month in Wales we host an international sniper competition. 12 countries, the best of the best, and I have some influence over the rosters. After today, he smiled faintly. "I think you should compete." Her chest tightened. She had heard of such competitions, grueling tests of precision, endurance, discipline, a proving ground for the elite. "I'm not sure that's possible, sir. My medical status." "Details," he cut her off. "I've already spoken with Colonel Parker. Temporary duty assignment, a simple formality." "Why?" she asked, the word slipping out before she could stop it. "Because," Blackwood said softly, "I believe in giving people opportunities to prove themselves, and I'd like to see how you perform under pressure, real pressure, in front of the world." His eyes locked on hers, cold and unblinking. It wasn't generosity, it was a test. "I'll need time to consider," Elena replied. "Not too much," he warned. "By tomorrow evening." That night Elena lay awake, staring at the barracks ceiling. Her mind replayed the shot, the faces, the smirk that had cracked into something else. She could stay in the shadows, keep sweeping brass until the army quietly reassigned her, or she could step into the fire. Her father's voice echoed in memory. "Mihija, shooting isn't about the gun. It's about knowing yourself, trusting your training, and never backing down from a challenge." By dawn, her decision was made. She found Mitchell at the sniper facility, instructing young recruits. He dismissed them when he saw her. "I want to compete," she said simply. His weathered face tightened. "Be careful, Elena. Blackwood doesn't make offers out of kindness. He's dangerous." "Then coach me," she countered. "Help me prepare." For a long moment silence. Then slowly he nodded. "You're your father's daughter, all right. Too stubborn for your own good. Fine, I'll train you, but understand this, the path you're about to walk, it won't end at a competition. Blackwood's playing a longer game." Her stomach twisted. "What kind of game?" Mitchell's eyes darkened. "The kind your father warned me about before he died." The words struck like a bullet. "My father, what do you mean?" But Mitchell only said, "You'll see soon enough." He turned away, leaving Elena with more questions than answers. That evening she found Blackwood in the officers' mess. His smirk returned when she approached. "I'll do it, sir. I'll represent the United States in Wales." His smile sharpened. "Excellent, I'll make the arrangements." But as she turned to leave, his voice stopped her. "Staff Sergeant Ramirez." She paused. "This isn't like your shot today. Wales is 5 days. Different conditions, unfamiliar equipment, and the world watching. Are you prepared for that? Her injured shoulder throbbed as she straightened. I've been preparing for it my whole life, sir. Blackwood studied her for a long moment, his eyes calculating. Then he nodded once. Very well, pack your gear. We leave in 4 weeks. The next month became hell. Mitchell's training pushed her past limits she didn't know she had. Mornings, he rebuilt her body, conditioning, endurance, brutal routines to strengthen her wounded shoulder. Afternoons, he sharpened her mind, range estimation without equipment, wind reading in shifting conditions, calculations drilled into muscle memory. Nights were spent studying, maps of the Welsh countryside, intelligence on competitors, weather patterns. Sniper work, Mitchell told her, was 90% preparation, 10% execution. Any fool can pull a trigger. Great ones shape the moment before the shot. At first, Foster grumbled about being assigned as her training partner. But after 10 days, watching her crush impossible drills, his resistance broke. "Where the hell did you learn to shoot like that?" he asked one evening. "My father taught me the basics. Afghanistan taught me the rest." Foster was quiet, then confessed, "My brother, Afghanistan, didn't make it back. He was training to be a sniper." She lowered her eyes. "I'm sorry." "Marcus Foster," he said, pride laced with grief. "Hell of a soldier." She raised her water bottle in a small salute. "To Staff Sergeant Marcus Foster, and to all who didn't come home." From then something shifted. Foster became invested. Late nights spotting for her, small corrections, sharing lessons born of combat. Slowly, a team began to form. But not everyone wanted her ready. 2 weeks into training, as she lined up on the 1,000-meter range, a shot cracked past her head. The dirt exploded inches from her cheek. "Sniper!" Foster shouted, dragging her down. Chaos erupted. MPs swarmed, but whoever had fired had vanished, leaving only a single spent casing. Mitchell's face hardened. Professional work, not meant to kill, meant to warn. Elena's jaw clenched. "Someone doesn't want me in Wales." Foster's reply was cold. "Or someone doesn't want you alive, period." Colonel Parker offered her an out that evening. She refused without hesitation. "If they want me scared," she said flatly, "then I'm going." The day of departure arrived. On the tarmac, the Welsh-bound C-17 roared to life. Soldiers loaded gear. Foster stood beside her, his bag slung. "Remember," he murmured, "Mitchell said trust no one, not even me." She smirked faintly, "Especially not you." But inside, her chest tightened. Blackwood's voice carried as he strode toward them. "Staff Sergeant Ramirez, Sergeant Foster, ready for our little adventure." Her jaw set. "Yes, sir." The engines roared. The ramp closed. And as the plane lifted into the gray sky, Elena felt the weight of it all pressing in. The shot at Braxton had changed her life. Wales would decide her future. But something told her it wouldn't be just a competition. Something darker waited. How do you trust strangers when every face around you might be wearing a mask? The C-17 cut across gray skis, its engines roaring like giants. Inside, the world's best snipers sat in rows, silent, reserved, calculating. Elena felt their eyes on her now and then, weighing, measuring. Some curious, some dismissive. Foster leaned back, arms crossed, watching. "They've all heard the story," he muttered. "That shot at Braxton, you're not anonymous anymore." She didn't reply. Being noticed wasn't power, it was vulnerability. A sniper's strength had always been invisibility. Now, every set of eyes was waiting for her to prove or collapse. When the plane touched down in London, another contingent joined them. Russians, led by a man who seemed more stone than flesh. Colonel Sergei Volkov, tall, wide-shouldered, his eyes flat and cold. The kind of eyes that had looked through too many scopes, seen too many men fall. Foster whispered as they boarded the connecting transport. "Former Spetsnaz. Rumor is Chechnya. the kind of work no one writes down. Elena didn't need rumors. She could smell the predator in him. The smaller transport finally banked over rolling green hills, the Welsh countryside sprawling in mist and forest. Nestled between them, a fortified training facility, isolated, watchful, secret. When the teams disembarked, Blackwood was waiting, his uniform immaculate as ever. His voice carried easily. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Wales. For the next 5 days, you'll test yourselves against one another under the most demanding conditions imaginable. But this is more than a competition." His gaze swept the crowd, lingering just a second too long on Elena. "It's an opportunity to forge connections, to prove yourselves, perhaps even to explore new paths." The implication hung there like a hook baited in dark water. They were led to their quarters, Spartan, efficient, 2 beds, a desk, and the lingering sense of surveillance. Foster checked immediately for bugs, mirrors, false panels, nothing obvious, which meant everything was hidden. "What's our play?" he asked. Elena sat on the bunk, unzipping her pack. "We compete, we watch, we see if Mitchell's suspicions are right. And if they are." Her eyes lifted to his. "Then we survive long enough to get proof." That evening the mess hall hummed with the low tension of soldiers too disciplined to brawl, too proud to relax. Elena and Foster joined the line, trays sliding, eyes following. It didn't take long for someone to step forward. A tall, blonde woman, eyes sharp but voice pleasant. "You must be the Americans," she said, her English marked only by the faintest lilt. "Captain Anna Bergman, Swedish Army Ranger Battalion." Elena shook her hand. "Staff Sergeant Elena Ramirez, this is Sergeant Drew Foster." Anna's smile was polite, but her gaze carried weight, like she was searching for something unsaid. "I've heard of you. That shot in Colorado, already a legend in some circles." "News travels fast," Elena murmured. "In our world, yes," Anna replied softly. Before anything else could pass, a shadow fell across the table. "Volkov." He brushed against Foster deliberately, shoulder slamming like a challenge. His voice was low, heavy with contempt. "Americans," he said, his accent slicing, "always bringing their damaged goods." Foster stiffened, his fist tightening around his tray. Elena touched his arm lightly, her voice calm, cool. "Not worth it." Volkov's eyes shifted to her shoulder, the scar visible even beneath fabric. He sneered. "In Russia, broken soldiers are not paraded to embarrass the country." "In America," she answered evenly, "we measure soldiers by results, not appearances." For a heartbeat silence. Then Volkov's lip curled and he moved on. Anna leaned closer. "Be careful with him, he holds grudges." Elena's tone was steel. "So do I." That night Foster whispered after lights out. "Do you think Bergman knows something? She looked at you like she wanted to say more." Elena didn't answer. She was still thinking of Volkov's eyes, empty, merciless. Some men carried war inside them long after the fighting stopped. Volkov looked like war was all he had left. Dawn came in mist and cold, draping the hills in ghostlight. Elena rose before reveille, moving through her routine. Equipment checks, stretches to ease the ache in her shoulder, quiet breaths to center her mind. Foster joined her at the window. "Visibility's bad. Mist like this eats bullets. Today's going to separate the real shooters from the technicians." At 600, the competitors assembled in the open courtyard. Blackwood stood on a raised platform, the scoreboard behind him blank, waiting for numbers that would decide reputations. "Day 1, he announced. "Baseline precision. Known distances 600 to 1200 meters. Your skills will be measured, your records set in stone." Elena's name appeared on range 3. Alongside her, Klaus Müller of Germany, Anna Bergman of Sweden, and Sergei Volkov. The walk to the firing line felt longer than it was. Soldiers filed into position. Weapons gleamed under gray skis. Spotters readied their scopes. At 600 meters, Elena settled behind her rifle. Her M40A6 felt familiar, worn to her touch, unlike the advanced machine some competitors unpacked, sleek, bristling with electronics. She inhaled, exhaled. The first shot broke clean. The round struck 9-ring slightly right, adjustment. Second shot 10-ring, third through the same hole. Good grouping, Mueller muttered beside her. Wind shifted just as you fired. She gave a curt nod. The scoreboard flickered. She ranked third, behind Bergman and a British shooter, Sergeant Davies. At 800 meters, the wind stiffened, unpredictable. Her grouping slipped, pulling her to fourth. Volkov muttered something in Russian as he shouldered his massive Chatak rifle, the scope gleaming with advanced optics. His grouping was tight, surgical, unerring. At 1,000, the mist thickened. The targets blurred. Elena's mind went back to Afghanistan, heat shimmer, dust storms, conditions where sight itself betrayed you. She adjusted, trusted instinct. 3 shots, all tight, spotters whispered. By the time the 1,200-meter scores lit up, she had climbed back to second overall. Davies led. Volkov close behind. Bergman steady in third. Blackwood's voice carried during the break. Impressive, but remember, this is only the beginning. His eyes lingered on Elena, as if to remind her that beginnings could also be endings. That night, Elena cleaned her rifle in the armory. Each motion was careful, methodical, part ritual, part meditation. Davies appeared beside her, cradling his own weapon. He was proud but not arrogant. His voice carried curiosity. "Struggling with the conditions?" he asked. "Just making adjustments." He lifted his rifle, sleek, polished, an L115A4 state-of-the-art. Its scope bristled with electronics. "Computer calculates everything," Davies said. "Wind, pressure, temperature, takes the guesswork out." "Must be nice," Elena said flatly. "In combat, every advantage matters," he replied. "In combat, you don't always have computers. Sometimes it's you, a rifle, and chaos." For a moment, silence. Then Davies smiled thinly. "True, but tomorrow the tests shift. Fieldcraft, unknown ranges, moving targets. That's where we'll see what really matters." The second day dawned harsher. Competitors were ordered into positions, given no distances. No electronics, just eyes, instincts, experience. Elena felt something loosen inside her. This was combat. This was familiar. At 400, 600, 900, she called the ranges by sight, adjusted, fired. Shot after shot landed. Her years in Afghanistan, her father's lessons, all alive in her hands. By midday, she had risen to third place overall. The afternoon was worse. Moving silhouettes, awkward firing positions, time pressure. Sweat stung her scar, her shoulder screamed. She pushed through it, hit after hit. By evening, she stood in third place, Davies ahead, Bergman close, Volkov glaring in quiet rage. At mess that night, Blackwood approached. His smile was too sharp. "Quite a comeback today, Staff Sergeant, though tomorrow will be different." She met his gaze evenly. "I'm ready." He leaned closer, voice dropping to a whisper. "We've invited journalists. Tomorrow your performance will be very public. I trust you enjoy an audience." She didn't blink. "I like an audience." Blackwood's smirk faltered for just a heartbeat. Then he straightened. "Good, because tomorrow we push beyond records, beyond possibility." Elena watched him walk away, her gut twisting. This wasn't just about shooting anymore. It was about something else. Something hidden in plain sight. What if the hardest shot wasn't about distance, but about the weight you carried when you pulled the trigger? The third morning began under a gray Welsh sky, heavy with clouds that seemed to press against the earth itself. The competitors stood assembled in the courtyard, shoulders squared, expressions carved from stone. Some hid nerves with bravado. Others, like Volkov, carried themselves with cold silence. Elena stood among them, steady on the outside but burning within. Blackwood appeared on the raised platform, immaculate as always. His voice carried sharp and smooth, slicing through the mist. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we push beyond expectation, beyond record. We test the edge of what's possible, ultra-long-range engagement, a single shot at nearly 3,200 meters. A ripple of murmurs swept the crowd. Elena's chest tightened. This wasn't coincidence. That exact distance, the same distance as Fort Braxton. Her mind flicked back to Mitchell's warning. Blackwood is playing a longer game. Each of you, Blackwood continued, will have one opportunity, one trigger pull. The target is a steel plate just shy of 1.5 miles. You will estimate conditions, make your adjustments, and send your round. Simple. Simple, as if 4 seconds of bullet flight wasn't an eternity where the earth itself could betray you. Competitors drew straws for order. Volkov stepped up first. His Chadek LRRS gleamed under the dim sun, a monster of a rifle built for range. He adjusted calmly, lips moving in quiet Russian as he made his calculations. The shot cracked, the round rang against steel, dead center. Applause rippled, restrained but real. Volkov only nodded, his expression unreadable. Bergman followed. Her shot struck left of mass but still on target, respectable. Davies stepped forward, his high-tech British rifle humming with computer guidance. The round flew true, close to bullseye, and the crowd erupted with national pride. Then it was Elena's turn. She walked forward, her M40A6 in hand, so plain against the exotic machinery around her. Some of the competitors smirked, a relic of a rifle for a relic of a soldier. She lay prone, lining up through the scope. The target shimmered in the distance, a ghost in the mist. Her heart began its rhythm, steady, deliberate. Inhale, exhale, hold. She read the grass, the fog, the invisible dance of air across valleys. Adjustments ticked in her mind faster than thought. Her father's voice alive again. The weapon is nothing, mi hija. The mind and the heart, those are the weapons. She held, waited, the world slowed. Her finger pulled. The shot cracked, echoing across the hills. 4 seconds stretched into forever. The steel plate shuddered. A hole appeared just below the center. Gasped whispers, then silence. Elena rolled to her knees, shoulders heaving but her face calm. She had hit it. Not perfection, but close enough to silence doubt. Blackwood's jaw tightened. He clapped, slow and deliberate. Well done, Staff Sergeant. It seems America does produce miracles. But his eyes, they were wrong. Not admiration, not even annoyance, calculation. Later, as the scores updated, Volkov in first, Davies close behind, Elena climbing steadily into third, she felt Blackwood's gaze still on her. Watching, measuring, like she was more than a competitor, like she was a variable in an equation only he understood. That evening, Elena found Mitchell waiting in the armory, though he wasn't supposed to be there. His civilian clothes blended with shadows, but his eyes burned sharp. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "I had to see," he said quietly. "You hit it, just like your father would have." Her throat tightened. "Mitchell, you knew him. You said he warned you about Blackwood. Why?" Mitchell's face hardened. "Your father called him the librarian. That was the code name. Said Blackwood wasn't just SAS. Said he was connected to something deeper, mercenary networks, intelligence leaks, operations off the books. Eagle eye." The word dropped like a stone. "Elena," Mitchell pressed, "this competition, it's a front. Recruitment. The best shooters in the world gathered in one place. Blackwood isn't testing you for medals. He's testing you for something darker." Her pulse raced. "Why me?" "Because you embarrassed him," Mitchell said flatly. "And because you're exactly the kind he wants. Wounded, overlooked, hungry to prove yourself. He knows how to twist that hunger." Elena swallowed hard. "Then why warn me?" "Because your father was my brother in arms. And he told me, if Blackwood ever came near his daughter to stop him at any cost. Her chest tightened, grief and rage twisting together. "He's dead, Mitchell. My father's gone. How do I honor him now?" Mitchell's eyes softened. By surviving, by choosing dignity over pride, that's what Carlos would have wanted. Before she could answer, footsteps echoed. Foster appeared, glancing sharply between them. "What the hell going on?" "Nothing," Mitchell said quickly. "Just an old man checking in." Foster frowned, but said nothing more. When Mitchell slipped into the night, Elena sat in silence, the words eagle-eye turning over and over in her mind like a round in the chamber. The fourth day brought new trials, fieldcraft and endurance. Competitors were marched into the hills, dropped in pairs, and told to navigate to hidden shooting positions before engaging moving targets. Elena and Foster moved silently through the underbrush, their breaths clouding in the chill. At one point they spotted Volkov ahead, his hulking frame crouched with surprising grace. "Looks like the Russians are moving for the ridge," Foster murmured. "Then we don't follow," Elena answered. "We flank." They circled low, crawling through mud and thorns. Her scar screamed, her shoulder burned, but she pressed forward. By the time they reached position, her uniform was torn, blood soaking her sleeve. She ignored it, set her rifle, sighted, fired. The silhouette target dropped. "Nice," Foster breathed. She allowed herself a grim smile. "Let's move before Volkov finds us." Hours later, their scores placed them in second overall. The Americans were suddenly contenders. That night Foster's voice was quiet as they sat cleaning rifles side by side. "He's right, you know, Mitchell. Blackwood's not just a soldier, he's something else." She paused, hand tightening on her cleaning rod. "You believe him?" "I believe you're in danger, and that he's watching you closer than anyone else here." She looked at him steady. "Then let him watch. He won't like what he sees." The fifth day, the final event, was announced with unsettling flourish. Blackwood stood before the scoreboard, his smile cold. "Ladies and gentlemen, today is not about points. Today is about reality, a live exercise, unknown distances, moving targets, fog, wind, and time pressure. In short, war." Elena's stomach dropped. This wasn't competition anymore. This was simulation bleeding too close to the real. She caught Mitchell's eyes in the distance just for a moment. His expression said it all. This was the trap. As she and Foster prepared their gear, Bergman approached quietly. Her voice was low, urgent. "Ramirez, be careful. This isn't what it looks like." Elena frowned. "What do you mean?" But before Bergman could answer, Blackwood's voice thundered. "Positions." And like that, the moment was gone. Elena shouldered her rifle, her scar burning, her breath steady. The test had begun. And deep down she knew it wasn't a competition anymore. It was the beginning of something far darker. What if the test wasn't about hitting targets at all, but about seeing who was willing to cross a line? The Welsh hills were swallowed in fog that morning, thick and rolling, muffling sound and bending light. The competitors moved like ghosts, scattered into the mist with rifles slung, radios crackling with clipped instructions. The air smelled of damp earth, steel, and something else, anticipation, sharp and metallic. Elena adjusted the strap, digging into her scarred shoulder. Every nerve in her body told her this wasn't a drill. "Feels wrong," Foster muttered beside her, crouching low. "Fog this thick, no visibility, live ammo. This isn't about points anymore." She didn't answer. The truth pressed heavy in her chest. This was something else, something hidden behind Blackwood's smooth words and easy smile. A horn sounded in the distance. The exercise had begun. Targets appeared faint in the fog, silhouettes on ridges, steel plates swinging from ropes. Elena dropped prone, rifle steady. The mist curled in the scope, but her instincts filled the gaps. 3 quick breaths. 1 shot. A silhouette clanged. "Hit," Foster confirmed, spotting through his scope. They moved fast, weaving through gorse and stone, their boots silent on the wet earth. At each waypoint, more targets. Elena's shots landed true, steady, Foster's too. Their teamwork was seamless, almost wordless. But then the targets changed. Through the haze, she spotted one too real. Not a plate, not a silhouette. A mannequin dressed in desert fatigues, a painted face. Her gut twisted. "Foster," she whispered, "that's not a target dummy, that's training for live." He cursed under his breath. "What the hell are they testing us for?" She fired anyway, clipping the helmet, refusing to aim for the face. The plate inside rattled, registering the hit. "Not good enough," a voice crackled through the radio. Blackwood's voice, smooth, cold. "Center Mass Staff Sergeant, this is about precision under pressure." Her blood ran colder than the fog. They were watching. They were grading. And this wasn't about distance anymore. It was about obedience. Hours dragged on, each stage darker than the last. Targets designed to look like combatants. Civilians mixed into the field. Split-second decisions about who to shoot and who to spare. At one checkpoint, Elena froze. Ahead, two mannequins, one in fatigues, rifle slung, the other in a hood, hands raised in surrender. Her stomach dropped, a trap. Through the earpiece, Blackwood's voice, "Elena, what's the call?" She clenched her jaw. "Rules of engagement, you don't shoot unarmed, surrender." "Interesting answer," Blackwood purred. Volkov, 2 ridges away, fired. The unarmed mannequin's head snapped back, splinters flying. He lowered his rifle calmly, expression empty. The scoreboard ticked, Volkov ahead. Elena's score dropped. Foster hissed. "They're rewarding him for killing a surrender target, Jesus." Her hands shook, not from fear but fury. This wasn't competition. This was indoctrination. Blackwood wasn't testing accuracy, he was testing conscience. By late afternoon, exhaustion dragged at her limbs. Mud caked her knees. Her scar screamed with every movement. But she pushed on, Foster always at her side. At the final ridge, the fog broke just enough to reveal the last stage. A small cluster of mannequins arranged in a mock village. Some carried rifles. Some looked like farmers. Some were children holding wooden toys. Her breath caught. "This is sick," she whispered. The radio crackled. "Final test," Blackwood's voice announced. "Engage all potential threats, speed matters." "Potential threats," Foster snarled. "What the hell does that even mean?" Elena's finger hovered over the trigger. Her heart thundered. Every instinct screamed this was wrong. Then she heard it, her father's voice in memory, soft but sharp. "Mihija, the hardest part of war isn't pulling the trigger. It's knowing when not to." She lowered her rifle. "Negative," she said into the radio. "I don't fire on civilians." The silence on the net was deafening. Volkov's rifle cracked from another ridge. Child mannequin down. Farmer mannequin down. He moved with mechanical precision, leaving only the rifle-bearing figure standing. The scoreboard glowed red. Volkov surged ahead. Ramirez plummeted. Blackwood's voice oozed through the static. "So, mercy over mission, interesting." She whispered to Foster, "This isn't about winning. It's about surviving whatever this really is." And deep down, she knew. She had just failed the test Blackwood cared about most. That evening, the hall was tense, charged with unspoken electricity. Competitors whispered, traded glances, but no one spoke of what they'd seen. Blackwood stood at the front, hands clasped behind his back. "Well done, all of you. The exercise is complete. Scores will be tallied tonight. Tomorrow, the winners announced." But Elena heard it in his voice. This wasn't about winners. This was about selection. At her table, Anna Bergman leaned close, her voice a whisper drowned beneath the hum. "You did the right thing today. Don't doubt it." Elena studied her. "You hesitated too." Anna's eyes flicked toward the guards stationed at the doors. "We need to talk. Somewhere they can't listen." Foster leaned in, wary. "Why?" Because you're not the only one Blackwood is watching, Anna said. And if you don't understand what Eagle Eye is soon, it may be too late. The name jolted Elena like an electric current. How do you know about Eagle Eye? But before Anna could answer, Blackwood's voice rang sharp. Captain Bergman, a word. Anna froze, then rose slowly. She walked toward the front, her face calm but her fists clenched tight. Elena's gut twisted. This wasn't coincidence. Blackwood had heard enough. Later that night, Elena couldn't sleep. The barracks were quiet, save for the faint snores of soldiers too exhausted to dream. She rose silently, boots muffled, slipping into the corridor. She found Bergman outside, smoking a thin cigarette under the drizzle. You shouldn't have asked me that in front of him, Anna said without turning. Then tell me now, Elena pressed. What's Eagle Eye? Anna flicked ash, her profile hard in the lamplight. It's not official, not NATO, not state, it's private. Shadow network. Blackwood's their recruiter. They watch soldiers, find the ones willing to go further than orders, willing to erase lines, and then they disappear. Disappear, Elena echoed. Anna nodded grimly. Pulled into missions no one admits exist. Assassinations, coups, false flag operations. The kind governments pretend they didn't authorize. Eagle Eye provides the shooters, men like Volkov, and women like, she trailed off, staring hard at Elena. Like you if you're not careful. The words struck deep. Her father's warnings, Mitchell's fears, now Bergman's confirmation. Blackwood wasn't building a competition. He was building a stable. Why tell me? Elena asked. Because I see it in you, Anna said. The conflict, you're good, too good. And that makes you valuable to him. But if you don't choose carefully, you won't come back from where he wants to send you. Elena's voice was low, steady. And what about you? Anna's eyes flicked away. Maybe I've already gone too far. For a moment silence hung between them, heavy with rain and truth. Then footsteps echoed down the corridor. Blackwood. His voice cut through the night like a blade. Can't sleep, Staff Sergeant. Elena turned, her face calm, her heart pounding. Just needed air. His smile was razor-thin. Good, you'll need plenty tomorrow, results day. He let the words hang, then walked away, his shadow long in the mist. Bergman crushed her cigarette under her boot. Be careful, he doesn't trust you anymore, and that makes you dangerous. Back in her bunk, Elena lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Her scar burned, her chest tight. For the first time, she wasn't asking whether she could make the shot. She was asking whether she could survive refusing to. What if winning wasn't the prize at all, but the trap? The morning of the results ceremony was colder than any other day in Wales. Not just the air. The silence, too. Soldiers moved with clipped efficiency, eyes down, conversations hushed. Something hung in the atmosphere, invisible but suffocating. Elena tied her boots with deliberate care, every motion a battle against the dread tightening in her chest. Foster leaned against the bunk across from her, arms crossed, his expression grim. Don't like this, he muttered. Blackwood's too calm, too sure. He knows something we don't, Elena said. Yeah, Foster replied, like how he's going to use us. They walked together to the assembly hall. High stone walls, banners of each nation displayed. The competitors filed in, uniforms immaculate, expressions unreadable. Volkov loomed at the front, shoulders squared, eyes fixed forward. Bergman stood off to the side, her posture rigid, her face carefully blank. Blackwood entered last. The room stilled. His boots echoed across the polished floor, each step deliberate. He mounted the dais, hands clasped behind his back, his smile carved in steel. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, voice smooth, sharp. Over the past week, you have proven yourselves the finest marksmen on Earth. You have endured conditions, tests, and challenges that push the boundaries of possibility. And now, the results. He gestured to the screen. Scores flickered alive. Volkov first, Davies second, Ramirez third. Whispers rippled through the hall. Third place, respectable but not victory. Blackwood's smile deepened. Congratulations to our top contenders. Sergeant Volkov, your precision was flawless, a performance worthy of your reputation. Volkov inclined his head, but his eyes flicked to Elena, cold satisfaction burning there. Sergeant Davies, Blackwood continued, a close second, your nation should be proud. Davies nodded modest, though his chest swelled with pride. And Staff Sergeant Ramirez, Blackwood said, his voice sliding like a blade. Third place, remarkable considering your background. A low chuckle rippled from the British delegation. Elena's jaw tightened, but she held steady. Blackwood raised a hand. But understand, this competition is not merely about medals. It is about identifying potential, identifying those rare individuals who can operate beyond constraints, beyond morality. His gaze locked with hers. And some of you have shown hesitation. The word was soft, but it echoed like a gunshot. Elena felt every eye turn. Foster stiffened beside her, whispering through clenched teeth, "He's calling you out." She didn't flinch, didn't look away. Blackwood's smile was thin, almost cruel. Those unwilling to do what is necessary will never achieve greatness, but those who do, his voice lowered, heavy with meaning, will shape the world. The ceremony ended with polite applause, medals pinned, photos taken. But the real contest hadn't been about points. Elena knew it now. The scoreboard was nothing. The true test was obedience, and she had failed it. That night, as soldiers dispersed to pack, Elena lingered in the armory, her hands moving over the familiar weight of her rifle. She knew Blackwood would come, and he did. The door opened with quiet authority. His reflection appeared in the steel cabinets before his voice did. "You disappointed me, Staff Sergeant." Elena didn't look up, because I didn't shoot unarmed mannequins. He stepped closer, his presence heavy, his voice smooth. "Because you revealed weakness, hesitation. You had the chance to prove you were more than rules, more than morality, and you chose restraint." She finally turned, her eyes steady. "I chose what was right." He tilted his head, studying her like a specimen. "Right, wrong. Do those words matter when history is written by those willing to act? Volkov acted. You flinched." Her voice was sharp. "He executed civilians." Blackwood's smile chilled her. "Targets, symbols, the line is always blurred. Real operators understand this. They don't hesitate, they don't ask permission, they act. That is why Volkov will always rise higher than you." For a moment, silence pressed between them. Then Blackwood leaned closer, his words low, almost intimate. "You have talent, Ramirez, more than most, but talent bound by conscience is wasted. That's why your country will never fully use you, why they left you to sweep brass. But I could give you more. A place where rules don't chain you, a place where your skill is everything." Her chest tightened, eagle eye. The name made him pause, just for a fraction of a second. Then he smiled again, slower this time. "So, Mitchell has been whispering." Her fists clenched. "He warned me, he said you'd try this." Blackwood chuckled softly, a sound colder than silence. "Mitchell is a relic, a man of an era that believed war had honor. He doesn't understand the world anymore, but you could. You could stand above it, or," his eyes narrowed, "you could remain a cripple with principles. Which do you think history will remember?" Elena rose, standing toe-to-toe with him. Her voice was steady steel. "History remembers those who kept their humanity, not those who sold it." For the first time his smile faltered, only briefly. Then it returned, sharper, crueler. "Perhaps, or perhaps it forgets you entirely." He turned, walking toward the door. "We leave at dawn. You'll be on the transport back to America. Think carefully, Ramirez. You may not get another chance to matter." The door closed. Her hands trembled, not from fear but fury. Foster stepped from the shadows where he had listened unseen. His voice was tight. "He's not going to let you go, Elena. Not really. He'll find a way to pull you in or silence you. She exhaled slowly, forcing calm. Then we don't wait for him. We find proof. We bring Eagle Eye into the light. Foster nodded, grim. Mitchell's the key. He knows more than he's saying. We need to get to him before Blackwood does. The next morning, the competitors assembled for departure. Trucks idled, engines rumbling, mist curling through the compound. Elena climbed into the back of the transport, Foster beside her. Volkov passed, pausing just long enough to sneer. Third place, always second tier. She met his eyes. Better third with honor than first without a soul. His lips twitched into the faintest smirk. Honor won't save you. As the convoy rolled down the winding road, Elena's eyes fixed on the horizon. Whales fell away behind them, but the shadow of what had happened there clung to her like smoke. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Back in the States, Fort Braxton felt smaller, colder, less like home than ever. Soldiers greeted her with admiration, but she couldn't feel it. Their cheers were hollow compared to the silence inside her. That evening, Mitchell waited for her in the empty range tower. "You saw it, didn't you?" he asked. She nodded. "It's real, Eagle Eye, recruitment through tests that strip away conscience. Volkov's already theirs. Blackwood wants me next." Mitchell's eyes darkened. "Then we have no time. We need evidence, documents, names, something the brass can't ignore." Foster leaned against the rail, arms crossed. "And if the brass is already in on it?" Mitchell's silence was answer enough. Elena clenched her jaw. "Then we take it outside, public, journalists, Congress, whoever it takes." Mitchell shook his head. "Dangerous. Blackwood has reach, more than you know. If you go public without proof, they'll bury you, literally." "Then we get proof," she said, "whatever it costs." For a moment, Mitchell studied her, the lines of age deepening in his face. Then he nodded slowly. "Your father would have said the same." Her throat tightened. "Then let's finish what he started." That night, Elena stood alone on the range, staring down the long stretch of steel and dirt. The place where her life had been humiliated. The place where it had turned again. She raised her rifle, sighted downrange, and whispered into the silence. "This time I'm not just making a shot. I'm making it count. What if chasing the truth meant painting a target on your own back?" The night was thick over Fort Braxton, the range lights dimmed, the base quieter than usual. Elena sat in the tower with Mitchell and Foster, a laptop glowing faintly between them. The older man's hand shook slightly as he slid a worn flash drive across the table. "Your father gave this to me before he died," Mitchell said, voice low, heavy with years. "Told me to keep it hidden. Told me one day his daughter might need it." Elena stared at the drive, her chest tight. "Why now?" "Because now," Mitchell said, "Blackwood is circling you the same way he circled him. And because if we don't move first, we won't get another chance." Foster leaned forward. "What's on it?" Mitchell's jaw flexed. "Not everything, but enough. Names, bank accounts, contracts. Proof that Eagle Eye isn't a rumor, it's a machine. Funded by shadow money. Directed by men who never set foot on battlefields." Elena slid the drive into the laptop. Files bloomed across the screen, scanned documents, coded ledgers, snippets of intercepted communications. The words hit hard. Operations denied, off-the-books payments, confirmed eliminations. Her stomach turned. God, how deep does this go? Mitchell's voice was tired. Deep enough that every war you thought you understood had shadows behind it. Kosovo, Iraq, Syria, hell, even counterterror ops stateside. Eagle Eye supplied shooters, ghosts. They kill, disappear, and history gets rewritten. Foster cursed under his breath. So it's not just Blackwood, he's a recruiter, a middleman. Elena scrolled through a folder marked candidates. Dozens of names. Soldiers flagged for moral flexibility. Special operators noted for high adaptability. All cross-referenced with performance evaluations. Her throat went dry. They're building files. They've been watching us for years. And then she saw it, her own name. Ramirez Elena, status, high-value prospect. Notes, injury potential leverage. Psychological profile, unresolved grief, father legacy, susceptible. The words blurred. She forced herself to read them again. Susceptible. Her father had fought to keep her from this. And still, they had her in their sights. Mitchell touched her shoulder gently. This is why Carlos warned me. He knew they'd try to use you. Her voice was steady steel. Then we use this to burn them down. They worked through the night, copying files, pulling pieces together. Foster mapped the bank accounts, millions funneled through shell corporations across Dubai, London, the Caymans. Mitchell traced the comms to encrypted nodes bouncing across Europe. Every thread led outward but none upward. The true leadership was hidden. By dawn they had fragments, not the whole. Enough to hint but not enough to prove. Foster rubbed his eyes. We leak this now, they'll call it conspiracy, deny it, say we faked it. Mitchell nodded grimly. We need more, something undeniable, something that links Eagle Eye to someone they can't ignore. Elena stared at the screen, her scar throbbing. Then we find it, whatever it takes. The first strike came that afternoon. She was driving back from town with Foster when the black SUV appeared in the mirror, closing fast. Company, Foster muttered. The SUV swerved, forcing them toward the ditch. Elena's hands gripped the wheel, fighting to keep control. A second SUV appeared ahead, blocking the road. Ambush, Foster snapped. Doors opened. Men in plain clothes stepped out, rifles raised, professional, efficient. Down, Foster shouted, drawing his sidearm. Elena slammed the brakes, the car skidding sideways as bullets tore into the windshield. She dove, glass shattering around her. Foster fired back, precise, controlled bursts. One man went down. Another ducked behind cover. Elena crawled to the glove compartment, yanked out the emergency pistol. Her shoulder burned as she aimed through shattered glass. One shot. A man fell. The SUVs peeled away, engines roaring, leaving their dead behind. For a long moment, silence, just the ringing in their ears. Foster panted. That wasn't random. Elena's voice was cold. Blackwood. They returned to base shaken but alive. MPs swarmed, questions flew, reports written. But Elena saw it in their eyes, the doubt, the suspicion. Were they victims or liabilities? Later, Mitchell's voice was grim. They'll keep coming. He won't stop, not until you're either dead or his. Her reply was steady. Then we make him regret trying either. The next day, Bergman arrived at Fort Braxton, unannounced, out of uniform, her face tight with urgency. They're already scrubbing files in Europe, she said, sliding into the range tower where Elena and Mitchell waited. Whatever you took, it rattled them. Blackwood's moving fast. How do you know? Elena asked, suspicious. Because I've been on the inside longer than you think, Bergman said, her eyes burned. I did jobs for them, missions I'll never forget. I tried to get out, but no one gets out clean. That's why I came here. You have the drive, the files. Maybe together we can finish this. Mitchell frowned. Or maybe you're just another snare. Bergman's voice cracked. I shot a man in Syria who wasn't holding a rifle. I did it because Blackwood told me he was a threat. I live with that face every night. Does that sound like someone protecting him? Elena studied her. The pain in Bergman's voice was real, too raw to fake. All right, Elena said softly. Then help us, but if you cross me. Bergman cut her off. I won't. For the first time, Elena saw not a rival, but a reflection. Another woman caught in a machine that demanded more than flesh. It demanded souls. That night, Elena went for air. The range stretched quiet under the stars. She raised her rifle, sighting down the dark. But before she could fire, she felt it, eyes on her. She turned. Blackwood stood in the shadows, hands clasped, expression unreadable. You've made enemies in very high places, he said softly. But you've also made yourself invaluable. The files you stole, impressive, but you don't even know the half of it. Her voice was ice. Then tell me. He stepped closer, his words low, deliberate. Your father understood. Before he died, he knew the world was run by shadows, not flags. He nearly joined us. Nearly. Her chest tightened. You're lying. Blackwood's smile cut like glass. Am I? Or did he simply keep the truth from you, to protect his perfect little daughter from the dirt he waded in? She froze. He leaned closer. Eagle Eye isn't corruption, Ramirez, it's evolution. Governments waste talent, we refine it, we give shooters purpose, dignity. You could be more than a soldier, you could be history itself. Her whisper was sharp. History doesn't remember ghosts. For the first time his eyes flared, not anger but something darker, desire to break her. Think carefully, he said, voice low. Defy me and you won't just die, you'll vanish, forgotten just like your father. Then he stepped back into shadow, leaving her breathless, trembling with rage. She didn't sleep that night. Instead, she loaded her gear, checked her rifle, double-checked the files. By dawn, she was resolved. She whispered into the empty room, her voice steady. No more running, no more hiding. This time we hit back. What if the final shot wasn't about distance at all, but about who you chose to be when the smoke cleared? The morning broke gray, heavy with storm clouds pressing low over Fort Braxton. Elena stood alone on the range, her rifle laid across her lap, the weight of decision heavier than steel. The flash drive sat in her pocket, its secrets burning like fire against her side. Behind her, Foster approached quietly. His face was drawn, eyes shadowed from sleepless nights. We can't sit on this anymore. Files or no files, Blackwood's closing in. If we wait, he buries us. I know, she said softly. Then what's the play? Her eyes stayed fixed on the horizon. We make them show themselves. We force their hand. He frowned. That's not a plan, Ramirez, that's suicide. She finally looked at him, steady, calm. Not if we set the trap right. By afternoon, the bait was laid. Elena had leaked fragments of the files, bank accounts, names, just enough to stir panic. The information would ripple outward, catching the attention of journalists, watchdogs, maybe even a few generals with enough integrity left to care. But she knew what it would really do, draw Blackwood out. And he came. The black SUV rolled up the gravel drive like a shadow made flesh. Doors opened. Blackwood stepped out, immaculate as ever, rain beating on his coat. Volkov flanked him, eyes dead, his massive frame radiating menace. Elena stood at the firing line, rifle at her side. Foster was hidden in overwatch. Mitchell waited in the tower, eyes on every angle. Bergman lingered near the vehicles, tense, uncertain. Ally or liability, Elena still couldn't tell. Blackwood's smile cut through the storm. Clever, very clever, leaked just enough to stir the waters, but you don't have proof, Ramirez, not the kind that matters. She met his gaze. Then why are you here? If I'm harmless, why bring Volkov? His smile faltered, just slightly. Because you're dangerous in a way you don't even understand. And because I'd rather offer you one last chance than waste potential. He stepped closer, his words dropping low. Join us, step into history. Your father almost did. He understood the truth, that morality is a leash, that men and women like us are not meant to be chained by it. Her heart pounded, but her voice was steady steel. My father died because he kept his soul intact. Don't twist his name to sell your rot. Blackwood's eyes hardened. Then you've chosen. Volkov stepped forward, rifle in hand. His voice was low, thick with contempt. End it. The air snapped taut. Elena's scar throbbed as she raised her rifle. Foster's voice whispered in her earpiece. I've got Volkov in my sights. Say the word. But Elena hesitated. Every instinct screamed to fire first, but another voice whispered, her father's. The hardest part of war isn't pulling the trigger, it's knowing when not to. She lowered her barrel slightly, not weakness, choice. Volkov, she called out, you've already sold yourself, but don't think for a second you scare me. You're just a gun that forgot it used to be a man. His jaw flexed. For the first time something flickered in his eyes, not rage but doubt. Blackwood snapped, enough, do it. The moment fractured. Volkov raised his weapon. A shot rang loud, sharp. But it was Elena's. It was Foster's. Volkov's rifle spun from his hands as the round tore through his shoulder, staggering him back. He roared, clutching the wound, his dead mask broken by sudden human pain. Chaos erupted. Bergman drew her sidearm, covering the SUVs. Mitchell's voice boomed through the tower loudspeaker. We've got everything on record. Live feed to off-site servers. Try to bury us now, you bastards. Blackwood's face finally cracked, the smooth mask slipping into fury. He reached for his sidearm, but Elena was faster. Her rifle barked, the round slamming into the gravel inches from his boots. Next one's between your eyes, she said coldly. For a heartbeat, the storm held its breath. Then Blackwood's smirk returned, twisted and thin. You think you've won. You've just declared war on ghosts. We'll come for you, and no one will remember your name when we erase you. Elena's eyes burned steady into his. Maybe, but at least the world will know you exist. Sirens wailed in the distance. Military police, drawn by the gunfire and the broadcast Mitchell had triggered. Blackwood straightened, his mask reforming. He gestured to his men, dragging the wounded Volkov toward the SUV. This isn't over, Ramirez, he said, not by a long shot. The convoy peeled away, tires spitting gravel, swallowed into the storm. Hours later, the base was alive with chaos, officers shouting, MPs swarming, journalists already circling like vultures. The fragments Elena had leaked were spreading, impossible to contain. Not the whole truth, but enough to spark questions Eagle Eye had worked decades to bury. In the tower, Mitchell slumped into a chair, exhaustion heavy on his frame. We've bought time, but Blackwood's right. They'll come. They always do. Foster holstered his weapon, jaw tight. Then we stay ready. We keep digging. Expose the rest before they silence us. Bergman lit a cigarette with shaking hands. You don't understand. Once you've seen Eagle Eye, there's no walking away. You're marked. Forever. Elena stood at the window, rain streaking down the glass, her reflection fractured. Then let them mark me, she whispered. Better to be hunted with dignity than safe with shame. Her scar ached, her body was tired, but her spirit, her father's spirit, burned fierce. She turned to them, voice low but unshakable. This isn't just about survival anymore. It's about making sure no one else ends up in their web. We're not ghosts, we're witnesses. Later that night, alone in her barracks, she unpacked her rifle, cleaned it, oiled it, every motion deliberate, steady. Not as a weapon of war, not as a tool for Blackwood's shadow games, but as a reminder of choice, of dignity, of the thin line between survival and surrender. Her father's voice echoed one last time, soft in memory. Sometimes, Mihija, dignity doesn't speak, it simply acts. She laid the rifle across her knees, staring into the storm beyond the window, and whispered to herself, I'm ready.